Hey there, Heather Ho there. It's Jeff Cutter Dunn. Welcome to yet another Cutter Top 10 FIFA World Cup video. And today we're going to be taking a look at the top 10 knockout upsets of all time. Now, knockout round is subjective in some people's minds and all that. But the simple fact is that if you lose in the olden days before 1982, there were 16 teams and practically there were knockout games in 1934 and 1938, but they don't count. And also, like, you top two in each group, so you go to the quarters, semis, and finals. And then they went with a round of 16 format starting in 1986 for the 86, 90, 94 tournaments. And then when the tournament expanded to 32 teams in 1998, no, sorry, they still went with round of 16. I think, and now we go to round 32 now, the 2018 2026 World Cup. Anyway, we're going to do it. Here are the top knockout games of all time. What am I doing? Number 10 is Paraguay, Germany 2026. I had to add one from the 2026 stuff, but there weren't really major upsets. There were minor upsets, if you will. Brazil losing, but that's a minor upset. But Paraguay, or Paraguay, whatever you want to call it, tomato. The fact is that Paraguay snuck in, and then they ended up facing Germany, who actually lost to another South American team, Ecuador, in the this last group stage match. So Paraguay took on Germany, and it looked good for Germany. It was 1-1. They went to extra time. Germany thought they had the 2-1 goal, but one of the German players fouled the goalkeeper on the corner. So that means that the goal had to be disallowed. And then on penalty kicks, Paraguay beat Germany and sent the Germans out. It's shocking how Canada, of all countries, actually survived longer than Germany. And that you didn't have that on your bingo card. Number 9 is Croatia Brazil 2022. So 2022 was a good tournament in Qatar in a sense. This is not the only quarterfinal from 2022 on the list, but this is less interesting one. So yeah, Croatia and Brazil were battling each other. Brazil looked pretty decent as they always do. Croatia, they lost the final in 2018. They had 4 years to go to fix it. Brazil actually was up 1-0. This was the goal by Richarlison, the bicycle kick. And then Croatia ended up tying it late, and then they went to penalties, and somehow, in some way, Brazil fumbled on penalties. You don't see that every day. Croatia beats Brazil. Croatia lost the semifinal to, I think, France, right? France or Argentina? I think it was France. I can't remember. It didn't matter. It doesn't matter, does it? Number 8 is Cameroon, Colombia 1990. You may be thinking, well, this is kind of weird, but yeah, Cameroon, Colombia was amazing. Colombia in 1990 were a well thought of team and all that. They took on Cameroon, and Cameroon were just coming in. They're indomitable elephants, they call themselves. In this round of 16 match to move on to the quarterfinals, Colombia had the lead, but gave up 2 goals to Roger Milla, who did his waggling the corner flag. And then Rene Higuita, the Colombian goalkeeper, who wanted to play like an outfield player, managed to mishandle the ball, and Roger Milla scored on an empty net. Cameroon got to the quarterfinals for the first time for Africa. And then Cameroon would take on England, put England down 2-1, but then they couldn't finish the job. Anyway, number 7 is Morocco, Portugal 2022 quarterfinal. I told you this. Croatia, Brazil was in the other quarterfinal. Morocco and Portugal were playing. And anyhow, Portugal were supposed to win. CR7 was supposed to get to the semifinals. It was easy. CR7 went to one semifinal in 2006, but that was it. However, Morocco stunned Portugal and became the first African nation to make a semifinal after years of missing out, including 2010 when Ghana had a chance to sink Uruguay thanks to Luis Suarez's handball and a penalty by Asamoah Gyan, and he missed it, and they lost on penalties. Morocco became the first African nation to make the semifinals and the first Arab nation to make the semifinals. There was a first half header from Youssef El Nesri, and Morocco managed to hang on against Portugal. They lost the semifinals, to France, and then Croatia lost Argentina. Yeah, France beat Morocco because 2026 they met in the quarterfinals, and France beat Morocco again. And for a time, Morocco had not given up a goal after Canada. Canada scored once on Morocco, but then Morocco beat Spain and Portugal before losing to France. So anyway, number 6 is South Korea, Italy 2002. Something has to be really big if this actually is not top 3. South Korea were co-hosts of the World Cup. And, they were very good. They were in a group with the US, Portugal, and Poland, and somehow they got through, and it wasn't Portugal that got in, it was the Americans. They took on Italy, and Italy was looking good. They're up 1-0. South Korea equalized before the end of the 90 minutes. Then they needed extra time to decide who won the game. And South Korea did. Ahn Jung-hwan put up a golden goal. Of course, back in 2002, the rules were if you scored a goal in extra time, that was it, game over. Kind of like overtime in hockey, but that didn't last long. Anyway, Italy couldn't believe their eyes. They had many calls go against them. They had fouls called against them. They had a penalty situation ruined. Francesco Totti got red carded for simulation or diving, and they had a goal that was unfairly knocked off. A lot of people then theorized that FIFA was hoping that the co-host would do well. I mean, it almost happens every time. Korea would beat Spain in quarterfinals and then lose the semifinals to Germany, and then South Korea lost third place to Turkey and all that. So yeah, this was big. And what's even more crazy was that Ahn Jung-hwan actually was playing for Perugia in the Italian league, and basically got his contract rescinded. But then 24 hours later, they fixed tried to fix the situation by saying no, it didn't happen, but it did. Number 5 is France Brazil 98 final. You're thinking, well, how is this so upset? Well, it was 3-0, but not for the team you think. In 1998, France had hosted the World Cup and did well. Well, France missed the 90 and 94 editions of the World Cup, which was shocking, especially in 94 when they had to get 1 point off Bulgaria and they failed in the qualifying stages. The French were a strong side and all that with Desailly, Leboeuf, and Zizou, as in Zidane, who now is going to be the French head coach after Deschamps resigned. Well, after the third place game. Anyway, France were huge. And then they took on Brazil, who were the defending champs, and Ronaldo, not CR7, but Brazil Ronaldo was looking pretty good. France beat Croatia in the semifinals. They actually got bit with Laurent Blanc was red carded before in the semifinals by a Croatian player who simulated things, and Blanc couldn't play in the final. And then, of course, Brazil beat Holland. But Zidane put up 2 goals in the final. They won the game 3-0, and Brazil looked bad. What's even worse was that, Brazil had Ronaldo suffering seemingly an epileptic fit before the final. So practically he was useless. He could have just been on the bench, but Nike, I think, pressured Brazil to put him on the starting squad, and it didn't work. Number 4, Italy 3, Brazil 2, 1982. A lot of people said that the 1982 Brazilians, like the 1974 Dutch, are the greatest team not to win the World Cup. So anyway, Italy and Brazil played each other. In 1982, FIFA had the quote unquote bright idea to have like two group stages. The first group stage would have 24 teams in 6 groups of 4. Top 2 move on, make 12. How are you going to do that? And then they decided to put them in 4 groups of 3, meaning that the winners of each group would get to the semifinals, and then from there we get the final. In the second group stage, Italy and Brazil were paired up with Argentina. After Argentina fell flat, Italy and Brazil needed to play. Brazil just needed a point against Italia to qualify for the semifinals. However, Paolo Rossi put up a hat trick, and Brazil were eliminated. Unluck of the draw when you have Italy, Brazil, and Argentina in the same group-ish. What's even more impressive was Paolo Rossi was not even supposed to be on the Italian team. He had been served a 2-year suspension from soccer because of gambling activities. He managed to get on the roster, but Enzo Bersot knew something that most fans didn't. And Paolo Rossi made it 3-2 and all that. And he helped Italy win the World Cup in 1982. You can't beat that. Number 3 is Germany, Brazil 2014. Everyone knows about this game. This was big. A lot of people said this should be number 1. Well, a lot of people said, well, this is not really an underdog win in the traditional sense, but it is an upset of sorts. Well, Brazil's hosting the World Cup, and it looked like Brazil was going to win the World Cup on home turf. You know, they had the Samba style, they had great teams and all that. They had just saw off Colombia and they saw off Colombia. Unfortunately, that quarterfinal was disastrous as Neymar got kneed in the back. He couldn't play in the semifinal. And Thiago Silva, their captain, was red carded. But of course, Germany dominated, and we all know the score 7-1. I don't need to say more. But the fact of the matter is that Germany's demolition was just shocking. They were up 7-0 at one point. I think, Brazil made it 7-1, but that didn't make sense. Anyway, Germany 5 goals in the first 30 minutes of the game. It was over before you knew it. And I had to go to work, so I knew who was going to win this game. So Brazil, Germany 7-1. Brazil would have gone to get their butts handed to them by the Dutch in the third place game, and they gave up the most goals in one World Cup and all that. Well, obviously you play an extra game. Germany would go on to win the World Cup against Argentina 1-0, but a lot of Brazilians were glad for Germany won because they didn't want Argentina winning the World Cup on their turf and all that. So anyhow, number 2 is Bulgaria, Germany 94. For all the things, remember, this is knockout game upsets of all time. This was a bigger upset than Germany over Brazil because, Germany's a legendary team. In 94, Bulgaria were in, their 4th World Cup in a row or something like that. They were no slouches. They were decent. They went on to face Germany in the quarterfinals. Germany, of course, being unified for the first time from West Germany to East Germany. West Germany were the champions of the last World Cup. So Germany knew they had to do it. They were the defending champs. They were actually up 1-0 on a goal by Lothar Matthäus. But then late goals by Herschel Stoichkov and Jordan Lechkov. So Stoichkov and Lechkov with beautiful headers and all that as Bulgaria shocked Germany 2-1 to get to the semifinals and all that. So that was just brutal for Germany. I mean, Bulgaria would get beaten by Italy in the semifinals and lose third place to Sweden. But still, that was amazing. Brazil had a chance. And number 1, Uruguay 2, Brazil 1, 1950. The Maracanazo. And you'd be thinking, 1950, wasn't that when US beat England? Yes, but that was in the group stages. This was not a knockout game. So FIFA, in their stupid decision-making in 1950, decided to have the last game the 4 group winners play in what they call a round robin, a pool play. So, of course, you play each other once, so 3 games to get yourself the title and all that. Brazil needed 1 point from Uruguay to win the final, and the final was at the Maracana with over 199,000 fans apparently there. Brazil looked good and all that. There was a parade going to be shown. There were medals given to the Brazilian players after the match. They said, Brazil had a 1-0 lead, and it was fine. But then Quick goals from one Alberto Schivino and Alcides Gigia. That's Ghiggia. Made it 2-1 Uruguay. And those two guys did something that only two people in history in Americana did. That being Frank Sinatra and the Pope. Silence the Americana. But yeah, it was a massive upset. Uruguay won their second straight World Cup. Well, they didn't compete in 34 and 38 because that was in Europe. And travel from South America to Europe is not as sophisticated as it is now. They would lose the quarterfinals in 1954, Uruguay, and try to get 3 titles in 3 appearances. But the fact of the matter was that Brazil had to change things. They decided to change their kits to yellow and blue, and they basically banished all the members of the 1950 Brazilian squad to do with anything to do with soccer, not even watch or consult or anything. Basically, they were made to be pariahs. The Brazilian government just made one giant boo boo after another. Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.